Number 5. Mars landing. Among his many criticisms, Nostradamus wrote a light on Mars failing. Now initially it seems like just a vague statement until you remember that a few years ago the Opportunity rover, which was traveling through Mars, broadcasted its last message from the surface of the red planet. Its last message read, "My battery is low and it's getting dark," which was the final transmission received from the Opportunity rover to NASA when the solar-powered robot was caught in a massive dust storm, described as one of the biggest dust storms observed on Mars, which engulfed the planet whole and turned the day into night, smothering the poor robot's battery, leading it to send that final poignant transmission. Now, could this be the light on Mars failing that Nostradamus was referring to? It's hard to argue that it doesn't match up just a little bit eerily. I mean, come on, a light on Mars failing and here you have a sad robot saying that its battery is dying out. Of course, this won't be the end of mankind's journey to the red planet. Succeeding the Opportunity rover is the Curiosity rover, which is currently roving around the rock right now as you watch this video. Elon Musk, billionaire and Twitter poster, has made no secret whatsoever of his goals for Mars, calling it his life's greatest work and a mission central to humanity. SpaceX has made several of their own predictions about sending men to Mars, with their earliest estimates being that by 2030 we will have manned crews walking the surface of Mars. One has to wonder if Nostradamus could have ever predicted man walking on the surface of another planet. It's hard for us to imagine that, but Musk and his company insists it'll be sooner than we think. Now, Nostradamus also predicted back in his book of Prophecies that you would subscribe to Top 5 Scary for the best scary stories and content on the web. Was he right? Because I'm pretty sure he was right. Number 4. Bioweaponry. I think we've all lived through enough biological disasters for one lifetime, right? I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with a bottle of hand sanitizer near me. Well, Vanga warns us that there could still be more on the horizon. One of her predictions for the near future is that she has prophesied that an unnamed big country will carry out bioweaponry research on human beings. She theorized that hundreds of thousands of people will be affected by these sinister experiments and that it could leak out into the rest of the world. Now, again, this goes without saying, but biological weaponry is banned worldwide. It's one of those things that really gets you into trouble. I mean, in 8th grade, I threw a booger at a girl and I was charged by the United Nations for biological warfare. The United Nations effectively bans any experiments or any conduct such as stockpiling viruses and dangerous bacteria, but, you know, let's be honest, the UN says a lot of things and that doesn't stop everybody. There are some who theorize that bioweaponry is already being researched across the globe secretly. Things like weaponized viruses or chemical warfare, all very illegal, all very scary. I have played way too many of the Resident Evil games in my lifetime to not be terrified of bioweaponry. We've touched a bit on this subject on previous videos about Baba Vanga, but Baba Vanga predicted as well in 2022 that we would experience a new virus and a new pandemic. Recently, in 2021, researchers in Siberia uncovered 33 strains of novel viruses encased perfectly in ice, samples over 15,000 years old. Could this be what Vanga is referring to here? Personally, I think a secret organization making a bioweapon out of generations old viruses sounds way too much like the plot to a scary horror movie or video game than it does real life, so I'm very much hoping that Baba Vanga was wrong about this one. I mean, she's not always right, you know? You need a couple of them to be wrong to make the real ones stick out all the more. Number 3. A world at war. War! What is it good for? Absolutely nothing, I think is the usual accepted answer. Well, that good-for-nothing horseman of the apocalypse is always rearing its head, and Nostradamus predicted that we'd be experiencing a lot of them. A passage reads, "Blue head shall white head harm in such degree, as France's good to both shall e'er amount." Now, I gonna be honest with you, I have no idea what that means. That doesn't really sound like much, unless there's a war of blue-headed people. I found one reading saying that this was predicting that France would be beaten at the World Cup, which is definitely possible, but I feel like Nostradamus would shoot a little higher than making sports bets. Most analysts seem to think that this points towards a war, so take a listen to this passage as well. This one reads, 7 months the great war, people dead of evil doing. Ruin ever shall not fall to the king. Now this prediction spells it out a little more clearly. Nostradamus thinks that there's going to be a great war that will spill over and into Europe, and that France will be a key player and a battleground for it. It's easy to see why this prediction could ring true, especially with how things are, going the way they are right now. There's already enough tension brewing, and I think the threat of a world war is something that's kind of looming in the back of everyone's minds already while we watch the news. While there is always a war burning somewhere across this globe. This prediction specifically outlines that this could evolve into something much, much bigger, into a great war, possibly, instead of one of those humble good ones. I'm joking, of course, there are no good ones. Possibly involving the entire planet in a global conflict. And while I'm sure a great war might make for a few good Hollywood action movies years after the fact, I think we should all work to avoid a third world war. Most trilogies usually have a really disappointing third one, you know? Let's just hope for our sake that Nostradamus isn't accurate on this one. Number 2. An asteroid. A great fire will fall from the sky for 3 nights. The cause will appear both stupefying and marvelous. Shortly afterwards, there will be an earthquake. I doubt Nostradamus had ever seen fireworks, so the prediction of this being that we're all gonna have a great party with fireworks for 3 days and then we're gonna party so much it'll rumble the earth, I don't think that's super likely. No, fire from the sky and earthquakes are never a good thing. That's usually kind of the symptoms of like apocalyptic stuff alongside boiling seas and demon walking the earth, fire raining down. Now this line could refer to a couple things, possibly. It could be alluding to something man-made, like a strike of some kind. But translators and experts of Nostradamus' writings believe that this could be referring to an asteroid strike on the planet with devastating impact. Asteroids pass by the Earth every single day already, and the likelihood of one colliding with the planet and causing serious damage is a real possibility, and all of us going the way of the dinosaurs. Fortunately for us, NASA has been cooking up predictions of their own, and they assure us that there is no danger of any collisions on record for 2022, or for the next 100 years, for that matter, claims a recent study. The asteroid Apophis was said to be flying worryingly close to Earth's orbit, on track for a possible collision in 2029, and as well, a slight risk of collision in 2068. But thankfully, continued monitoring and updated scans have shown that everything should be all clear for the next 100 years. Nice to know that the seer can get wrong every once in a while, you know? Keeps them humble. Of course, there is always the possibility, like I mentioned, that great fire falling from the sky could be referring to something a little darker than an asteroid. Like I said, maybe something man-made or something a bit more cosmic, like say a celestial fire of some kind. Speaking of celestial fires, actually funny, that's so funny, I was just talking about celestial fires earlier. Let's get on to the next point, which is number 1, Celestial Fire and the New World Order. Celestial Fire and the New World Order sounds like they would have been the absolute coolest 80s prog rock supergroup. I bet their first album was fantastic and the rest of them fell off. Disregard that fantasy for a minute, and let's get back to the topic at hand. Nostradamus' predictions. In his big old book of prophecies, Nostradamus wrote that there would be a celestial fire on the royal edifice. So what does that mean? King Charles's house is about to catch fire? Well, something about the word celestial really throws this one for me. You know, celestial is not an adjective that you just toss in willy-nilly. I feel like that's reserved for when something is descending from the cosmos, end of days, apocalypse stuff. Well, not to worry, this prediction gets worse. They always get worse. The prediction goes on to state that through the ashes of this celestial fire on the royal edifice will rise a new order, hey, another prog rock group, and that an unlikely alliance between 2 great powers will come together. What those 2 great powers could be, though, is anyone's guess. Is it Marvel and DC? Apple and Android? Coke and Pepsi? Whoever it may be, it's said that things will never be the same and the alliance's effect will not be good for us. Now, Nostradamus wrote many predictions on the royal family, and some even claim that he accurately predicted Queen Elizabeth's passing. He had this to add on about King Charles specifically. Because they disapproved of his divorce, a man who they later considered unworthy, the people will force out the king of the islands. A man will replace who never expected to be king. Could this be referring to King Charles being replaced in favor of a new king? Could this be related to this new world order Nostradamus is predicting, with someone no one ever expected to be king, and that unlikely alliance getting formed? We're not sure yet, but as time goes on, more and more of Nostradamus' predictions keep turning out to be true, so we'll find out soon enough, I'm sure, and you'll find out here. Number 5. World War III. In his big book of predictions, known as his Quatrains, Nostradamus wrote that 7 months the Great War, people dead of evil doing. Rowan, Evru shall not fall to the king. Now, if you've watched any of our videos on Nostradamus, you'll know that he usually keeps his predictions pretty vague and cryptic, as a centuries-old mystic astrologer is wont to do. But here he's treating us to a prediction so easy to read, even I can follow along. Nostradamus predicts that there will be a great war, and that if the quatrain is anything to go off of, Europe will be the theater for the conflict. But in a small hope spot for the city of Rouen, France, they are not going to fall to the king. Good for them. That's the only city he specified is going to be okay. Now, who could this king be referring to? A world leader? An army, maybe? The mascot for Burger King? I know if any fast food mascot is going to start a world war, it is absolutely that guy, although Grimace has always been a wild card. Don't trust him even a little bit. Now, obviously, jokes aside, this is a tense subject. The current situation in Europe is already a cause for serious global stress, and no one wants to see it develop any further, especially into a great war. Although that's a bit of a misnomer, isn't it? I'm not sure if great is the right word to describe any wars. Maybe in size, sure, but I don't think anyone involved in an international war would describe it to you as a great time. The quatrain doesn't specify when, but with the world watching Europe now, it's definitely on the back of all of our minds that we hope this doesn't come true. Let's take a break from bumming each other out talking about global conflicts. You having fun with the channel? Toss a subscribe our way to catch it all. Number 4. Civil unrest. In that big old book of chilling quatrains, our good friend Nostradamus had this to write. The trumpet shakes with great discord, and agreement broken. Lifting the face to heaven, the bloody mouth will swim with blood, the face anointed with milk and honey lies on the ground. Probably the most outright sinister sounding of any of Nostradamus' prediction, unless the trumpet shaking with great discord just means there's going to be an awesome marching band parade going through the world. This one could mean a lot, but analysts and experts of Nostradamus' work generally agree that they think this is predicting a time of great civil unrest, dated for 2022. In the last couple years, we've already seen more civil unrest globally than we have before, with protests all over the globe for a number of social causes and pressing concerns. It's not unlikely at all to think that this sleeping discontent in the masses is going to keep rising, and it's very likely there will be more protests. This could tie in with a point we made in the previous Nostradamus video, in which he highlighted a prediction for 2022 that said he believed that inflation and starvation would rise so much that so high the price of wheat that man is stirred to his fellow man to eat in his despair. Now obviously that could be taken literally, and I sincerely hope not, because I don't think I would taste good at all. I'm a bit stringy and I eat terribly, so I would be awful for your diet. No, instead, myself and others think that it's alluding to the eat the rich sentiment and movement, and that these two predictions are linked together. You know, we've already seen so much unrest and so many protests for years from people struggling to get by, and as wages stay the same and working conditions worsen across the globe, it's increasingly worrisome that maybe someday it's all boiling into something really, really big. Finishing off in the original quatrain, Nostradamus wrote, "Sooner and later, you will see great changes made, dreadful horrors and vengeances." So maybe there's some positivity out of it, you know, some great changes. Maybe we'll all get a 4-day weekend. We just have to ignore the dreadful horrors, I guess. Number 3, celestial fire. And before we move forward, we really gotta think of a nickname for this guy. Nostradamus is just a mouthful and a half. Mussy? No, that's way worse. Okay, never mind. We're just gonna keep calling him Nostradamus for now. You know what, if you ghouls and goblins can think of a good Nostradamus nickname, throw that down in the comments, because I am spending so much time saying this guy's name. Our favorite Farsi and Frenchman with no good nicknames wrote in his big book of predictions that there will be a celestial fire on the royal edifice. So what does that mean for us? What is a celestial fire if not a Destiny 2 melee ability? Warlocks are going to dominate a new Crucible map? It's unlikely, as Nostradamus' predictions on Destiny's meta have frequently been inaccurate, and most historians believe he actually would have played a Voidwalker instead of a Dawnblade. Experts in transcribing Nostradamus' work believe that this excerpt from his poetry could be referring to the destruction of the royal palace, with many believing it to refer to the royal family in the UK. So should King Charles put a big fireproof umbrella over Buckingham Palace? Some have suggested that this could be far more dramatic, referring to Buckingham Palace being completely destroyed and from its ashes a new power rising. The prophet continues to say that an unlikely alliance will occur of two great powers that will come together. Now, who would this new world order be? Benevolent, to lead us to a new golden age, or dark new overlords to oppress us all? It's always a possibility that it could be reptile people. Number 2, man-eating? No abbots, monks, no novices to learn. Honey shall cost far more than candle wax. So high the price of wheat that man has stirred his fellow man to eat in his despair. Now, at first, this seems like the ramblings of an old man who just came back from Walmart and saw the price of honey and is going off on a tirade. But that little snippet about man eating his fellow man sticks out just a little bit, doesn't it? This prediction is pretty directly doomsaying, with our good friend and master of mysticism, Nostradamus, suggesting that in the future, things are going to get so bad that food is going to become so expensive that the common fella won't be able to afford any honey, wheat, or Honey Nut Cheerios, and will be pushed in desperation to start eating his fellow man. Hey, there really was not a lot going on back then if the scariest thing he could think of was honey getting so expensive that it would cause a full-on societal breakdown and cause us all to start eating man. You think they're gonna sell that in grocery stores? Obviously this one is a bit drastic as far as his predictions go, and definitely a bit scary unless you're the kind of person that watches The Walking Dead and wishes, gosh, I wish that was me. And if you are, you should probably talk to someone, they just want to help. But there is some truth to this. Prices of basic groceries are going up and up every year. I mean, you can walk into the Walmart and see the price of honey yourself. With inflation creeping its ugly little head a little more each year. It's been a consistent concern as well that bees are going to go extinct in our lifetime, with the population of honeybees declining rapidly yearly. For our sake, and the bees, we need to do something to save the planet, if not just for the ecosystem and the planet as a whole, but also because apparently if we run out of honey, that's the first thing that causes us to all start going Texas Chainsaw Massacre on each other. Number 1, Great Discord. The trumpet shakes with great discord, an agreement broken, lifting the face to heaven. The bloody mouth will swim with blood. The face anointed with milk and honey lies on the ground. Like most of Nostradamus' writings, this one sounds a bit like the opening monologue to one of the Lord of the Rings movies. And wow, hey, honey again. Honey was a really serious cause of concern for this guy. I think if nothing else, Nostradamus took his morning tea incredibly seriously. So besides crying over spilled milk and honey, what do the experts have to say about this one? Was Nostradamus banned from his Discord server and writing out against the tyrannical mods? Well, like most of the predictions on this list, this unnerving quatrain seems to suggest that dire violence will plague us, with unrest between the classes leading to full-scale rebellion and riots. This little ditty seems to support that, with Nostradamus writing that sooner and later you will see great changes made, dreadful horrors and vengeances. Well, I don't know about you, but I support great changes definitely, though I'm a little less sure about dreadful horrors and vengeances. The last few years have seen more civil unrest than ever, with it seeming like there's a mass-scale protest or riot every couple of weeks somewhere in the world. It's easy to flick on the news and see that and wonder if it's eventually going to hit a boiling point, and when it does, if we'll see some serious changes, or at the very least, some positive progress towards the price of honey. Because I'm really not looking to get eaten by anyone anytime soon. I'm just, look at me, I'm so twiggy, I will barely even make a good snack. Just pass me over, okay? Number 5 on our list for scary predictions from the Princess of Prognostication for 2023 is a nuclear meltdown. Vanga predicted that soon another nuclear meltdown will occur at a currently unnamed nuclear power plant that will explode. Now, followers of Vanga have cited Chernobyl as proof of the oracle's soothsaying, believing that she predicted it years before it occurred. Now, if you need anyone to spell out just how bad a nuclear meltdown would be, luckily, and I use that term extremely lightly, we have Chernobyl as a harrowing monument to the dangers of untethered nuclear power. Chernobyl, if you don't know from not having seen the HBO TV show or the Call of Duty 4 level, which is where I get most of my information about world issues and politics, was a nuclear power plant outside of Pripyat that experienced a horrific meltdown. When Chernobyl's reactor burst, the blast was equivalent to the force of 500 nuclear explosions. Now, 1 is already just about the worst thing that could ever possibly happen. 2 is pretty bad. 500 is inconceivable. So I don't think anyone among us wants another one. There is obviously some worry with current conflicts over Europe that this could be what Baba Vanga is predicting. Outside forces and damage could trigger a chain reaction that leads to severe, long-lasting consequences. Chernobyl still isn't habitable by humans, and scientists estimate it won't be for the next 20,000 years. Which is a shame because honestly it does look like it could be a cool place to live. The sites are pretty cool. We can't afford another Chernobyl anywhere in the world with everything going on. In 1967 as well, Baba Vanga predicted that you would watch this video and give us a subscribe. It is just astonishing how well she was able to predict the future. Number 4. Asteroids. A great fire will fall from the sky for 3 nights. The cause will appear both stupefying and marvelous. Shortly afterwards, there will be an earthquake. Ever since a big rock wiped out the dinosaurs, I think it's been a little bit on the back of our minds worrying that maybe something like that might happen to us someday. If something is gonna stop a T-Rex, I don't even feel a little bit confident about my odds. This quatrain here makes it seem like we've gotta be watching the skies. And while I certainly hope this is just Nostradamus referring to the world's best 4th of July celebration and a whole long weekend fireworks session, people who spend a whole lot more time than me reading about Nostradamus theorize that this could be referring to an asteroid strike on our sweet blue planet, which is going to be both stupefying and marvelous, which honestly sounds very, very nice were it not for the earthquake. Lucky for us, and terrible for extinction event enthusiasts, sorry, our good friends at NASA have recently demonstrated their DART technology, short for Double Asteroid Redirection Test. And I gotta wonder how many acronyms they tried before landing on that one, because DART sounds so clean. It's a system in place to change the trajectory of asteroids. Successfully, no less. Just a few weeks ago, for the first time in humanity's history, we changed the path of a celestial object. So take that, Nostradamus. Bet you didn't predict we were gonna go to space to push something out of the way. And hey, asteroids, you think you're so tough? Well, take that, never-ending cosmos and unending might of the eternal stars. We're just gonna push you right out of the way. We don't care. Number 3, virtual reality takeover. Hey, what's your favorite reality? Mine is occasionally this one, although I am pretty partial to some synthetic realities as well. It definitely seems like over the last few years, I've spent more time inside digital worlds than I have paying attention to the world around me. I mean, can you blame me? Someone had to collect all those Korok seeds. Well, according to Baba Vanga, maybe we're all going to be spending a lot more time hooked up into our digital worlds. Vanga predicts that humanity is going to start absorbing itself into a virtual world. She said in 2022, people would spend more time online and in screens more than ever. Typical grandmother. It's hard to tell her she's wrong though. I mean, you're on a screen right now, and I'm talking into a screen right now. We've seen the world become more online than ever in the past few years. Baba Vanga, you would have absolutely loved Black Mirror. They made like 5 seasons of that show. It was basically all about this. You don't really need to be a blind mystic with a gift for prophecy to predict that virtual reality is coming. I mean, Meta has made no secret about how they believe the metaverse to be the next greatest leap in human advancement. Although, if you want my advice, I think the visuals still need a little tweaking because I'm not sure that I want to leave behind all the beauty of the real human experience just to go live in a simulated reality where everything looks like I'm trapped in the loading screen for Wii Sports Bowling forever. Investors and tech startups are racing to be the one to perfect the metaverse. And I do think we'll get there eventually, 2007 graphics notwithstanding. Once we've plundered this beautiful world for all its natural resources and drained the seas and stars, I think we'll all come aboard Mark Zuckerberg's cold, desolate ark and live hooked up into the machine spirit. I'm very optimistic about the future, if you couldn't tell that. Number 2, water scarcity. What is the most important resource humanity has? Cadbury cream eggs? No. It's water, of course. As much as we think of water as an infinitely replenishing resource, we're running out of it faster than any of us would ever care to admit. Only 3% of all water on the world is fresh water, and 2/3 of that water is tucked away in frozen glaciers. The World Wildlife Foundation dictates that somewhere around 2.7 billion people find water scarce for at least 1 month of the year. Baba Vanga predicted that by 2022, the world would experience a global drought, leading to water shortages internationally. I mean, without it, we're nothing. And unless we all want to start wearing still suits like Dune, drinking our urine and sweat, we should probably try and do something about it, you know? Something on a big global scale, maybe, not just paper straws. Countries across the world are already experiencing shortages. It goes hand in hand with the rising temperatures seen globally, with temperatures in Europe nearing towards 50 degrees. The UK this year experienced one of its hottest summers it had ever seen, and this year our July was the 6th hottest July on record, like ever, like since they started writing down information about how hot it was. This is one of those times where being really high up on a hottest list is not actually a good thing. Now, much like most people, I absolutely loved Mad Max Fury Road, but I think the parts that I thought were really cool were the cool cars and the leather jackets and punching guys in the sand, and not the part where post-apocalyptic tyrant warlords control the world by hoarding what limited water exists and oppressing the downtrodden. So I'd like to avoid that if we can. Also, I can't drive, so I don't really know how long I would last in the wasteland. Number 1, alien invasion. Our number 1 spot is also Vanga's most out there prediction, like out of this world out there. In 2022, Baba Vanga claims that an alien life is going to arrive on Earth traveling on an asteroid called Oumuamua to scope out the situation here. The name is Hawaiian in origin, meaning a messenger from afar arriving first. Kind of feel like if there was ever an asteroid that would very likely contain an envoy of visitors from another planet, it would have to be that one. I mean, listen to that name. Now this asteroid is real, and it is an object from another solar system altogether, passing through for an intergalactic sightseeing tour. Now not to burst your bubble too much, but this asteroid actually has already passed through Earth's orbit back in 2017, but I guess they didn't see anything too worthwhile yet. You know what, aliens, I gotta say, this isn't really the best time for us to have company right now over. As I've listed off in this video, we're kind of dealing with some problems right now. We're still kind of cleaning up a little bit. You know, give us some notice. We just need to clean out the cupboards, fix a few of our global catastrophes, end all conflicts, get everybody to be friends, and then we can have you guys over. Recently, NASA just deflected an asteroid in a historic moment, successfully deflecting an asteroid's course. Probably a huge flex to the aliens, letting them know straight up, hey, if you guys want to swing by on an asteroid and we're not feeling it, we can just push you out of the way with an interplanetary do not disturb sign. But don't feel too threatened about that, please, aliens. We were just trying out our new asteroid deflecting software. We're not the most friendly species, but if you guys want to come check out what we're doing, we can meet in the middle somewhere, maybe on some neutral ground. Maybe the moon. We put a flag up there, but I promise that's not ours. You know, we can just share that.